host, Dr. Roberta Westbrook, and we are here at the campus for all animals, the Houston SPCA. Thank you for taking time out to join us each week and learn a little bit about how to make your pets live happier and healthier lives. And today, in that same vein, we want to talk to you about digestive issues with your pets. So, it's always concerning for pet owners when they, the first time their pet vomits or has diarrhea or your pet passes gas. Sometimes those moments are very concerning, and you may be wondering, what's going on with my pet's digestive system, and how can I make sure that they are digesting their food appropriately and that we're feeding the right foods? So if you have questions regarding your pet's GI health, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and I'll see if I can help you today. In the meantime, I want to introduce you to our pet of the week. This handsome boy is named Austin. Austin is about a 1-year-old border collie, shepherd mix. He is a really handsome guy with a unique personality. He came to us as a puppy last year, but recently came from a home that needed to be a little bit better suited for his activity level. So if you are an active family and you want to go out, maybe you're active, you like running or hiking, Austin might be perfect for you. And so he can be a little bit shy when you first meet him, but he warms right up to you and he loves to play games. He certainly knows some tricks like sit, and he can walk well on a leash. So he's ready for you, and he's ready to meet his family. So come on down and visit Austin and all of the other pets in our adoption center that are looking for their homes. Thank you guys so much once again for joining us. So let's talk a little bit about your pet's digestive system. We always want to make sure that we have a healthy pet. And part of having a healthy pet is making sure that they are eating the right foods and making sure that they are digesting the foods that they're eating appropriately. This is going to help them to develop, to grow, to keep strong muscles and joints, and then to live longer lives. So what questions do you have about your pet's digestive system?
Are there any differences between our system and our pets?
So in general, a human's digestive system and a dog or cat's digestive system, in a broad sense, is very similar. We all have the same organs. We take in food in a very similar way. There's small differences in the teeth and in terms of how those teeth are shaped and how we chew our food. For example, humans can grind their food and we can chew up and down and side to side, but dogs and cats are just chew up and down. So there's small differences like that, but all the other parts, the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, colon, pancreas, liver, and gallbladder, all of those major organs that are related to digestion are pretty much the same. Pets are also uniquely developed so that they have a certain type of diet that they like to eat. For example, humans can eat anything. We're considered omnivores. And it used to be that dogs were considered carnivores only, but as we've sort of domesticated dogs, we're realizing that dogs can develop the ability to digest carbohydrates and other types of nutrients actually quite well. And so we consider our domestic dogs omnivores as well. Cats are a little bit different. Cats are true carnivores. If you have a cat, it's really important that they are able to get some animal protein in their body, because animal proteins have certain amino acids that are really critical for the health and wellness of your cat. So those are some small differences, but overall, the basics are pretty much the same.
All right. And then what are the most common diseases you see that are related to gastrointestinal problems?
There's lots of diseases that can occur with the gastrointestinal tract, but the most common things that we see as veterinarians tend to be those things like vomiting, diarrhea, bloating, and sometimes dietary indiscretion, which is what happens when your pets eat things that they shouldn't. They get into the trash or they pick things up off the ground and cause foreign bodies. So those are the most common things. Intestinal parasites is a very common thing as well, particularly if you have a puppy or a kitten.
And can dogs get food poisoning?
Oh, that's a great question. So when we talk about food poisoning in our pets, dogs and cats, there's two ideas here about improper intake of food. So there's something that we call food toxicity, which many veterinarians may also call food poisoning. That's when your pet ingests something that can actually cause life-threatening side effects. And I'm talking about things like liver failure, kidney failure, heart failure, or that can really cause your pet to have to be hospitalized because the ingredients or the amount that they ate is truly toxic for the body. There is another type of GI illness in our pets that we call dietary indiscretion or garbage gut. This is when your pets eat something that maybe they're not used to eating. It's not toxic in and of itself. It's not that they cannot eat those foods, but maybe the food was spoiled, or maybe it was eaten in too large of amounts. And that can just cause GI upset. It can also cause vomiting and diarrhea, but usually doesn't result in true toxicities that can lead to death sometimes. So it's important just to make sure that you are aware of everything that your pet is ingesting. So make sure that you secure things like the trash. Make sure that when you're having cookouts or you're having family over or barbecues, that you're not giving your pet something that can really upset their stomach. So for example, giving your pet some table foods like chicken or turkey or beef, those foods are not toxic, but given in high amounts or with lots of seasoning on it or high levels of fat, it absolutely can cause GI upset and can cause some pretty serious side effects. So make sure that you're keeping your pet's diet pretty strict and not veering away from things that they should not have.
And I guess it kind of differ both, or for our sake of mine, when should we take them to the vet? How fast should diarrhea resolve if they just ate something that upset their stomach?
Sure, some basic GI upset can usually resolve even on its own after a couple of days, 1 to 2 days, certainly not longer than 3 days. If you're noticing that your pet is vomiting or having diarrhea and it's not getting better between that 1 to 2, 3 day period, or it's getting worse, please see your family veterinarian. Another clue that you need to see the veterinarian right away is if you're noticing blood in the stool. So anytime you're noticing blood in the stool, I would take your pet in right away and get your pet seen by a veterinarian to make sure that's not something more serious.
So then I guess their stool can tell us a lot about their health.
Yes, absolutely. So when you're looking at your pet's stool, it can give you some clues at least. So we always want the stool to be formed, and you will know if there's a problem because what you want to look at is the consistency. And what I mean by is not only the consistency or the texture of the stool, but also what is your pet's consistency in terms of what does their stool normally look like. So if your pet normally has nice formed stool and then one day you go on a walk and it's very loose or it looks like it has a lot of mucus in it, that might be a clue that something different has occurred in their GI tract. Did they switch to a new food, a new treat? Did they get into some table scraps or something? These might be indications that they're having a disruption in their normal digestion. Or if the stool is harder than normal, darker than normal, if you see a change in what is normal for your pet, these might be clues that you want to see your family veterinarian, and it can give you a hint that something is going on. But you just want to make sure that your pet's stool is solid, formed, not too dry, but certainly not too loose either. If you notice something outside norm, please see your family veterinarian.
And then for things like tummy issues, how are those resolved? Do we just kind of let it pass? If it's kind of like us, we just let the bug pass by, or what are the treatment options for our pets?
Your veterinarian is going to do an exam on your pet, but most importantly, you're going to be the most important person in helping your veterinarian get to the right answer. So all the questions that your veterinarian is going to ask you are going to be important. So we're going to ask you, what food does your pet normally eat? And has there been any variance to that normal diet in the last 24, 48 hours that could be contributing to the abnormal signs that you're seeing? Any information that we have is going to help us arrive at the appropriate diagnosis so that we can treat your pet appropriately. So history questions are important. And then the next step is going to be running tests. Your veterinarian may collect a stool sample or ask you to bring a stool sample in so that we can run tests to check for intestinal parasites or bacterial overgrowth. And sometimes we can even send that stool sample to an outside laboratory that can do tests for more rare conditions to check for bacteria, viruses, and other types of protozoal infections in the GI tract. So depending on what you tell us based on the history and our test results, That way we can tailor the treatment for your pet a little bit better.
And, if it's only been like 1 day or two of these upset stomach, is there any at-home remedies we can try?
There are a few, but I would always make sure that you check with your family veterinarian first, because you don't want to do anything at home that could make the problem worse or be preventing the appropriate treatment. So with your family veterinarian's guidance, sometimes feeding your pet a very bland diet can help with any GI upset. But always ask things like bland white or brown rice or unseasoned chicken or turkey breast can sometimes be easily digestible for your pet and allow them to get some nutrients without a lot of high fat content and have a food that's easily digestible. This could be suggested by your veterinarian. Sometimes canned pumpkin can be helpful for pets that are having GI upset. But again, you're going to want to use these at the right times. So always contact your veterinarian before you try anything at home.
And I've noticed sometimes my dog takes it upon themselves to kind of fix their own GI issues by eating grass. Is that something that they usually do to kind of induce vomiting, or if they do have an upset stomach?
Eating grass is sort of an age-old problem, and we can't ever get to the bottom of why our pets do this. Some say that the pets do this because they have tummy upset, and when they eat the grass, it tends to cause vomiting. And so there's a thought that maybe just cleansing their GI system through vomiting can sort of help them feel better. Others say that the grass has nutrients in it that the pets are trying to, kind of instinctually intake. We haven't gotten to the complete answer about why our pets eat grass, but certainly it can cause some vomiting. And in many cases, afterwards, they seem to be fine. I would encourage your pets to be careful about the eating grass, because there may be other contaminants in the grass that you don't want them to ingest. So that could be insecticides, or it could be contaminated grass that has fecal matter from other animals. So just be aware of it, and I would probably encourage your pets not to ingest grass, particularly in public areas.
Which brings me to the next question. Some dogs do choose to eat the fecal matter. And can that also upset stomach, or how can we prevent it?
Gosh, yes. What a disgusting habit that some dogs have. We call that coprophagia. Coprophagia is the ingestion of fecal matter. In some species like rabbits, it's important for their digestion, and they may do that in order to get certain vitamins from their feces. It's not considered that normal for dogs and cats, and sometimes they ingest fecal matter because it smells like food, and so they may want to re-ingest that fecal matter because it has some of the smells and consistency of previously digested food. But it can be dangerous because they can also consume eggs that are intestinal parasites, and it can actually cause them to get those intestinal parasites by ingesting other fecal matter. So we want to discourage that. There are some over-the-counter products that you can get from your local pet store that you can feed your pet. What that does is it makes the fecal matter that they excrete unpleasant, so that other animals don't want to eat it and they don't want to eat their own fecal matter. So you can also contact your family veterinarian or your local pet store for some of those products that may discourage coprophagia.
And then someone asked, occasionally my dog vomits white or yellow liquid substance and then acts completely fine. What does that mean?
It depends. It depends again on the history, how long this is going on, and what else is going on with your pet. But usually that yellowish clear fluid is related to bile. And so this can happen for a variety of reasons, and your veterinarian may want to do some tests or in a physical exam to figure out why. Sometimes your pet may vomit every now and then once and then never happen again, and they may be fine afterwards. But if you notice this is a pattern, that they're doing this multiple times a week or consistently, it could be related to their diet, and your veterinarian may suggest that you put your pet on a different diet to make sure that the digestion is adequate for them.
And then if we have a large lab that is known to eat a few things, what are some common signs that a pet has blockage?
Okay, so a blockage due to a foreign body. So if your pet has eaten something and that object is now causing an obstruction in their gastrointestinal tract so that the object cannot pass through, and other food and water that's ingested cannot pass through, your pet can begin to show symptoms of abdominal pain. They can have bloating. They can develop vomiting. And interestingly enough, they can develop diarrhea. And you may say, well, how can they develop diarrhea if they have a blockage? Well, what can happen is if the item is preventing the passage of fecal matter, and the fecal matter builds up. When your pet goes to the restroom, they may strain a little bit. And while they're straining, sometimes the fecal matter will shoot through in a liquid consistency. And that's just because there's an obstruction there. And so sometimes it comes out, in little spurts or liquid amounts. And so it can sometimes cause diarrhea. But your pet may stop eating, become lethargic, vomit, and sometimes not even be able to hold down water. If you're noticing these signs in your pet, please see your veterinarian right away. These things can be life-threatening if they have a serious obstruction. It can cut off blood supply to their intestines, and they may require emergency surgery. So if you're noticing signs of an intestinal or a stomach obstruction in your pet, please make sure that you see your family veterinarian right away. And always watch them when they're chewing toys, and discourage them from chewing on things that could become foreign bodies like socks and shoes and tennis balls if you're not watching them closely.
Yes, we want to prevent it because I've heard it can be a really costly surgery.
It absolutely can in many cases. But if you can get it soon, it has a good long-term prognosis.
And then some puppies have bloated tummies. Is that because of constipation, or what does that usually mean?
Yes, a great question. It's very common to see young puppies and even kittens with big round bellies, little pot bellies, we call them. And the most common reason for that is intestinal parasites. So it's very, very common for puppies and kittens to have intestinal parasites. They can be passed from mother to puppy or mother to kitten. And so when they're very young, sometimes they can get bloated bellies. I would say see your family veterinarian so they can prescribe a dewormer that will kill the intestinal parasites, and you might notice that bloating goes away. There's another common reason for the bloating, and sometimes that's because puppies and kittens love to eat a lot. And so they may ingest a lot of food, which also may give the appearance of a bloated tummy that will often go down as they pass their fecal matter.
Another question about like just eating in general. My dog eagerly eats like the wet food and mixed food, but then refuses to eat the dry food. Is it just because she's being spoiled?
Sometimes that's true. Dogs have their preference. And so sometimes they do have a preference for semi-wet or moist food, and they don't really prefer dry food. And sometimes they may have days where they eat a little bit more of the other. And so absolutely they have preferences. And I wouldn't be too concerned if they have a preference of one food type over the other, unless it's required medically to eat one type or another. Then I would say contact your family veterinarian about the appropriate way to encourage the appropriate diet.
And if my pet doesn't like eagerly eat right away, how do we know if they're full or if they're ill?
Great question. So if you're noticing that your pet is sort of grazing throughout the day, eating a kernel or two here. I have a friend's dog who loves to do that. He'll take a kernel and he'll just chew it. He may take it over into the corner and then he'll come back and get another kernel. And he may eat the same, bowl of food all day. That's quite all right. That's fine. Some have that preference. If you're noticing, though, that the inappetence is continuing for more than a day, and it's in the second day or third day, and you're noticing that your pet does not want to eat at all, it usually also goes along with a little bit of lethargy or, some other symptoms. If you're noticing that that's happening, that might be a clue that something's wrong. See your family veterinarian. But if they're eating and they're grazing throughout the day, they're not having any vomiting or diarrhea, it just could be their natural habit.
And then how often should they go to the restroom, or like when do we know they have a blockage or they're not able to poop?
Your pet should go to the restroom, have a bowel movement at least once a day. So some may have it multiple times a day, every time they go on a walk. So it just depends on how much you feed them, how often you feed them, and what their routine is. But at least once a day is normal for your pets.
And then last question, should we feed my dog probiotics or supplements to help prevent these type of diseases?
We do have probiotics available for dogs and cats. We most often use them in veterinary medicine when there is a problem, when your pet has diarrhea or constipation, and we're doing it to sort of repopulate the healthy bacteria in your pet's gut. It's not required that you give it on a daily basis if your pet is not having any GI upset, but we certainly do use it when there is a problem to help to restore that normal gut flora. If you're feeding a balanced diet and your pet is having normal stool, then probiotics may not be necessary. But if you're concerned about it, please contact your veterinarian and they can give you more tailored information for your pet. Well, we thank you so much for joining us. I have exciting news for you this coming weekend, or I'm sorry, not this coming weekend, August 26th. August 26th is a big event here on campus. That is Clear the Shelters. So every year we have a big adoption event called Clear the Shelters. The purpose of this event is to try to get every pet into a home. We want to make sure that our pets have a great opportunity to meet you, to meet your family, to meet your friends, and consider taking them in as a family member. So please come on down to Clear the Shelters. It's going to be a wonderful family event. Bring your whole family. There's going to be activities for the kids. There's going to be face painting and balloon animal making and Kona ice trucks and food and beer for the adults. So come on down. There's something for everyone at our Clear the Shelters event, August 26th on Saturday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. We will be happy to see you, and we appreciate you joining us every week on the Pet Pawcast. So we will see you next week.